so we can go ahead and start the session. Welcome to the forum, everyone. Eddie, we're handing over to you now.
Great, thank you very much. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are. We welcome you to this panel where we talk about a do-it-yourself approach to promoting African languages on the internet. My name is Eddie Avila. I'm the Rising Voices Director of the organization Global Voices. Rising Voices is the digital inclusion arm of Global Voices, and we work with underrepresented groups all around the world, supporting them, amplifying their work for those communities that want to adopt the internet and adapt it to their needs. And so for the last 7 years or so, we've been working with a concept we call language digital activism, working to connect speakers of indigenous, endangered, minority, low resource languages all around the world who are incorporating internet-based tools, digital media, technology to promote and revitalize their languages on the internet. In 2019, the United Nations declared that year to be the International Year of Indigenous Languages. And as a part of that, we created a series of social media campaigns where we invited different individuals around the world to take control or be host of a Twitter account where they could share their stories directly to audiences about their work, about the challenges of using their language on the internet or in many different spaces. As part of the scale to measure the vitality of the language, one important factor is how the language is being used in new domains, how it's changing attitudes. And I think we've seen the potential of technology, social media, digital media to really help position these languages in many new spaces and also attract the attention of young people. And so the Twitter account that we helped create for the continent of Africa is called Digi African Lang. And as a part of that, we reached out to many inspiring people who are doing lots of interesting things with their languages in this field. And so that's how we met, about 30, 35 different individuals, working with localization of software. They're using, Wikipedia tools to create knowledge in their language. We see others using digital storytelling, social media campaigns, and even natural language processing. And so it's really been an inspiring last couple of years to really see this work up close. And so Rising Voices has been sort of a convener, a connector, and that's the reason why we help organize this session. We want to introduce you to 4 fascinating individuals doing very fascinating things with their language in different spaces. And so, as I mentioned, Rising Voices focuses on digital inclusion, and part of it is to help ensure a more linguistically and culturally diverse internet. And even though it's part of a digital inclusion field, we also feel that it's also has a strong tie-in with digital rights, because protecting digital rights also can help protect many different languages, which includes ensuring internet accessibility. Many of the regions that have lower internet penetration rates are also regions where some of these low resource languages are spoken. So there's a really strong tie-in there. I think the issue of misinformation, hate speech can also be seen in many platforms, and how can we advocate for some of these platforms to have more resources in those languages to be able to respond to those requests or to those complaints about violating community standards. And then also, because part of that is ensuring that the right to the freedom of expression and freedom of access to information is available in all languages. And so why did we call this a do-it-yourself approach? Because with any language revitalization, any language promotion work, it's really a multi-pronged strategy. It's public policy, it's educational policy for bilingual, bicultural education, academic research, but it's also, this is a really important part of it, of creating content, of just taking it upon yourself, taking it upon the community's initiative to, not wait around for a government or an NGO or university to start promoting the languages, but it really takes the commitment and the passion of speakers. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And so it's not an isolated initiative, it's a part of an overall strategy, but I think it's a really interesting approach to, not wait around and wait for someone else to do it, but really doing it yourself. And so, today we have a really great panel, 4 individuals whose work I really strongly admire. And I will start it off with a quick question, and then I'll ask each one to introduce themselves. I think they could probably do it better than I can. And so the first question is, we'll start with Blossom. How are you and your community taking a do-it-yourself approach to ensure your language and culture are represented online? So if you please just introduce yourself and then you go into the question.
Hi, thank you very much, Eddie. Welcome, Sia, Sadiq, Suzanne, Dennis, Mamani, and as many people that are in this room. Thanks so much for having me in this panel. And basically what has worked for us, my community, which is the Ibo Wikimedians user group, is to find people that are excited about, promoting their language, their culture, especially on the internet, and bringing everybody into one room, one digital space, and encouraging each other, to go out and do as much as we can. So over time, I would want to really recommend the Wikimedia Foundation. They've sort of provided that safe space for us to come together and actually aggregate our different energies as individuals, just to do something that is what not just our wow, but it's like a legacy statement. So over time, we started just as a few women that came together to edit articles on Wikipedia about Igbo women, so we sort of found out that, yes, we have quite some, not a lot, on the English Wikipedia, but then on the Igbo language Wikipedia platform, we didn't have much of that in terms of translations and even brand new articles and pages. So we came together as women for women and sort of came together to aggregate all of our energies as a project. And it was quite successful. And upon the completion of that project, it's lasted for about 4-6 months. We then felt it would be a good opportunity as well to then extend beyond our initial focus, which was just, making women more visible on Wikipedia platform. So we then started up as a user group, good enough. We got our accreditation and it's been very exciting over then. I've long moved on from my role as a founding curator. Over time, we've had 2 other women, step up and, just do amazing and incredible things. But what really works for me, what makes me very excited is I don't even need to be in the room. Yes, I sort of brought all the people together for us to start this conversation, to start this approach, to start this project. But over time, I've also realized that there are even people that are bringing better concepts, better strategies in the room. And I just sort of stand back and I admire this. And I'm like, oh, what if we did not start this? And it, suddenly occurred to me that it's always good to start. Over time, you would always meet people that would expand the scope of your excitement, the scope of whatever it is that you want to do. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Maybe I will introduce you. I think you didn't say all the great things you're doing. So I will read the bio that you shared. There's a lot of great work.
We seem to have lost Eddie. Just to ensure that we're still on the same page. Sia, can you hear us? The rest of you can hear us?
Yeah.
I hear you.
I can hear you. Yeah.
I couldn't hear Eddie for some time.
Yeah, I can hear.
Great. So we seem to have lost Eddie there, but one of you can take over and continue talking about the awesome work that you're doing. Thank you.
Okay, Mama Nee, do you want to go first?
Yes, I don't mind going first because I might have to leave early. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So my name is Mama Dagbani Owu. A lot of people call me Mama. And I'm founder and lead researcher of the Afro-Literacies Foundation, which is a think and do tank that is based in Ghana. And it's for African languages and education. So what I do is that I kind of do something related to what Blossom was talking about. I'm sort of like a founding curator, but I'm also doing research around the activities of the Think and Do tank. And we're a group of educators and language professionals who are developing bilingual e-learning resources and curriculum materials, ebooks and instructional aids for use in primary schooling. And our flagship project is known as Ibo and Gã, which is I will speak Gã. It's based on the Gã language, which is spoken in Accra, but which has undergone a language shift due to the influx of multilingualism and a lot of other language speakers. And so I would speak primarily based on, with regards to Ibo and Gã, which is the flagship project. And in terms of how we're taking a do-it-yourself approach to ensure that the Gã language and culture is represented online, I started with a community of teachers in Ghana, and I was doing research with these teachers, trying to understand how they were implementing mother tongue-based bilingual education in policy in their classrooms. And in doing so, we found out that there was a dearth or a scarcity of resources for teaching for these teachers. So in terms of textbooks and teaching aids in the language, the mother tongues primarily, they were simply not there or very, very hard to access. And so we decided to actually engage in DIY activities. So try and find out ways to create these resources ourselves. And I had been doing that a while back during my master's program, where I was a Spanish instructor. And so I kind of led the teachers in a lot of curriculathons, kind of like a hackathon to hack the curriculum and figure out how to develop resources in their own languages. And it led to the development of these resources in Gã and then in English. And currently, and then eventually we got a larger community of teachers and also community leaders and language speakers who were very interested in this. We got interviewed on some of the local media channels in terms of TV stations and radio stations. We're very, very happy with the kind of work we're doing. And eventually we decided to incorporate. And so we incorporated this as a think tank, but we realized that we're actually doing it. We're not just doing research around the use of the languages. And so we decided to reach out to other teachers of other languages who were interested in doing the same work that we're doing, so that we could research around how they were creating the resources. They could use our prototype, kind of see what worked and what did not work. So it's very experimental, I would say. And currently what the Afro-Literacies Foundation is doing is that we're using all the digital means accessible to us. So we're using not just Google Docs and creating, and we're also reaching out and sharing the content that we are creating using social media apps. We're networking with the community. We're documenting the language and very specific aspects of the language that are used in instruction, especially from the elementary levels all the way to, from the basic level, from early childhood education levels all the way to elementary, and sometimes even higher education levels. And so we're also networking with diaspora speakers. and heritage speakers of languages. And so we've also started to offer courses, online courses, we've created not just ebooks, but we've also published kids fiction and flashcards for learning. And so I would end here and say that, yeah, I think the work that I'm leading currently is actually way bigger than myself. And so like Blossom explained, it's something that is spreading out. And so far I'm finding a group of leaders who are starting to take charge and come into their own and offer their own expertise to the think and do tongue for the work that we do. So thank you. I'll leave it off here for now.
Great, thank you, Mama. And apologies for my internet connection, it's a little spotty today. We will go next to Sadiq Shahadu. He's a Wikimedian and digital language activist. He is the co-founder of the Global Open Initiative and Dagbani Wikimedians user group. He's currently serving as the Mozilla Festival Wrangler Ambassador and the Regional Ambassador for Indigenous Communities at Art and Feminism. Thanks, Sadiq. Could you share about yourself and how you're taking a do-it-yourself approach to promoting the Dagbani language?
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, great. My name is Sadiq Shahadu. I am currently based in Tamale, but most of the times I live in Accra. And I am the co-founder of the Dagbani Wikimedians user group and the regional ambassador for indigenous communities at Art and Feminism. So with regards to my work as to how we, try to digitize our language on the internet, that is the Dagbani language, working with a community like the Wikimedia community has really been a step ahead, because we're looking for ways as an ambassador or indigenous communities ambassador, we're looking for ways to not just Wikipedia, but how we could improve the content or visibility of Dagbani on the internet. And we realized that Wikimedia Foundation and its projects has already laid the foundation for us, and we realized we could leverage the platforms Wikimedia currently have to improve the visibility of Dagbani on the internet. So we started as a smaller community. Most of us were in Tamale, and it was only one or two of us who were based in Accra, and currently we have up to 200 plus community members. So this is how we started. It was an initiative that was started way back in 2015 with a team of medical students and other Wikimedia volunteers, Mohammed Sadat, Abdullah, and some other folks from Tamale. And then the project was laid dormant because of inactivity, and members were not really interested in, joining hands at that time. So we were off for some time until 2017, when Sadat and I traveled to University of Education, Winneba. That is where Dagbani is mostly taught. And most of the teachers in the northern region goes there to learn Dagbani and other Ghanaian languages. So we made a trip there, and then we had a meeting with the teachers and faculty members as to how they can help us improve our work with all that we have been doing, how they can support us since they have the capacity and are able to help us, promote Dagbani. And after the meeting, we started by, mobilizing communities, and we started by doing a few workshops here and there. At that time, it was Global Open Initiative, which I co-founded with Mohammed Sadat and then Zita. So we were doing normal Wikipedia activities until last year, 2020, that we realized, we could, come back to the Dagbani project. And then I traveled to North here and made an outreach. I was surprised to see so many people reaching out to me about their interest and how they want to support the language. And so I quickly created a group, and then we started reaching out to institutions and students who were more interested in, Dagbani language. So that was how we started. And for us, the approach is very simple. We have a platform, which is Wikipedia or Wikimedia. And then once you have a platform, what you need to do is to just get the people who are more interested in the project. So my story is quite similar to Blossom's own, because we are all like language user groups. For a language user group, having worked with other community members like Wikimedia communities in Ghana, I realized most of their activities are centered around the English Wikipedia and Wikidata. But for a community or a language user group, we need to focus on activities that promotes the language in terms of like creating articles and building tools and making platforms that are going to support our work on Wikimedia project available to more volunteers. So what we did was to embark on a project called Bachinima. Bachinima in Dagbani means worse. So how did we do that? We started by assembling offline and online resources like digital dictionaries and offline dictionaries to know how many Dagbani words are available for us. We were able to assemble around 4,500 Dagbani words. And then we wanted to be sure whether these words were actually from the Dagbani language. So we invited language experts to come and verify those languages to be sure that those languages, those words are actually from the Dagbani language. Because we know that most languages in Africa are, borrowed. A lot of words are borrowed from other languages. I know a lot of other languages in Ghana that even when you mention or you speak and you mention that word, like people will not even know that that word is not original from the language. So that was the challenge we foresaw, and then we invited these language experts to come and like assist us with the verifiability and how authentic those words were. Then we kickstarted the project called Bachinima, and then we contacted a team in India who developed an application called Spell for Wiki. So basically what we wanted to do was to, document oral words like pronunciation of these digital dictionary words onto a platform that is more reusable and freely available for anyone who wants to use it in any form they want. So our targeted audience were maybe application developers or those who want to build future dictionaries, digital dictionaries, and also natural language processing communities who want to use Dagbani words to train their artificial intelligence learning machines. So these were our original target. But we realized that after the project, the Wikidata lexicographical data was also very useful. It became very useful to the abstract Wikipedia project that we embarked on. Fortunately for us, we were selected as one of the focus languages for Wikimedia abstract Wikipedia projects. And these are words that we use to improve the lexicographical data, which we call lexemes, that community members are creating. And these words are already in use. When you go to Wikidata lexemes in Dagbani, you can find audio pronunciations of those words that we have created, or those lexemes that we have created. You can find them, how the words are pronounced and all that. And like I said, digital dictionaries can also make use of it. They can use it to develop applications that people can learn, like online learning platforms can leverage to build tools that support learning and teaching and learning in Ghana and any part of the world. So basically, this is what we've been doing so far as a community on in our own way. Yeah, thanks.
Great, thanks, Sadiq. Next up is Soweto-born Sia Masuku. He's a South African graphic novelist. He's the founder of Sia Funda Online, an independent publisher of picture books in indigenous languages. Sia's work may be described as visceral while maintaining a simplicity, which makes learning isiZulu easy. Welcome, Sia. I'd love to hear more about your work.
Thank you, Sanbonan. I'd like to share a screen. Is that all right? Okay, just a sec. Please let me know once it shows on your side.
Yeah, we see it.
Okay, and I hope the sound will be okay too. Okay. My name is Sia Masugu, writer and illustrator in Indigenous languages, founder of Siyafunda Online. I'm also a producer of animated films, and in Siyafunda Online, we also independently publish graphic novels, picture books, storybooks, basically for children in Indigenous languages. A bit of history. In 2015, I had a conversation with my mother, who was a teacher in a primary school in Soweto, a township in southwest of Johannesburg. And she had a problem that some of the books that were coming into the school were few and far between, but even worse, they were not in the children's mother tongue. And even the pictures did not represent the children, and it sort of hit home with me. I knew I had a talent in writing and illustrating, and I figured I would do a book called Siyafunda isiZulu, which teaches the pronunciation of the isiZulu alphabet. The isiZulu alphabet, by the way, has no R originally, but it is the language is sort of adapted over the years. Now, my home language being isiZulu, it was an obvious decision to go with that language. There are about 35 indigenous languages in South Africa, documented that is, but 10 are official. So going into this journey, we started in 2015 to produce the book. In 2016, finished working on the book, and I struggled with publishing it. I learned about fundraising using crowdfunding, an online service, and gathering people to contribute towards the project. And within a month, raised 113% of the money required, which was enough for me to start Siyafunda Online and sort of keeping the dream of having my own independent publishing house. Now, it was fun going through the process of writing the books, because we donated some books to the schools, and people started hearing about the books and they started to buy the books. Now, there was a lot of community work that we started doing over time, because we realized that a lot of children's parents couldn't afford the books. So we figured we'd go to the kids and gather them around and start telling them the stories. Now, the trick was sometimes we had a very small group, so it was easy to just read the book and show them the pictures. But then there were times where, on occasion, we had a big group, and we went into a stumbling block. How do we show them the pictures? How do we intensify the storytelling? And the thought came to us as a team at Siyafunda that we could just put it on a digital screen, and it would even be better if we use the characters straight out of the comics and actually give them some sort of movement and then narrate stories. And that gave it a bigger appeal, and we got a lot of support for that with the kids. 2019 came, obviously shocked everyone, COVID, and we realized that we can't do this anymore. We can't physically go and meet the community, but we still need to share these stories. Then the obvious solution at that time was, let's make them digital completely and be able to put them online and even be able to send them on phones via WhatsApp, because they're short stories. They're about 6 minutes. It's a story that someone could look at on the tablet and enjoy. And in 2019, that was the last graphic novel that we published, Kwantiziyongise, meaning follow your heart, loosely. We decided that we can develop this into a motion comic. And I will show you a short trailer of Kwantiziyongise. If you can't hear the sound, please let me know.
Umgodi omnyama ulanga wathwebuleka Ngiyabonga. Ungubani wena?
Mina ngibeke kanjani? Ngiyinhlanzi yakho, umthwali wakho.
Solokhu ngilandela inhliziyo yami. Manje nginemibuzo eminingi.
Wamukelekile kwanhliziyo ngise, indawo yamaqiniso.
Sizokwenzani lapha?
Sizolandela izinhliziyo zethu. Kule ndawo amagama awasho lutho. Kukhuluma izenzo kuphela.
Ngiyithola kanjani inhliziyo yami?
Ukuzethemba nokuphikelela. Inhliziyo enciphayo ibika ukuthi umnikazi wayo akayondli. Ekhulayo ibika
ukuthi umnikazi wayo uyayondla bese eyilandela.
Kunjalo.
And then afterwards, we sort of in 2020, the lockdown sort of regulation sort of went down and people were able to sort of come out with their masks. And it was kind of fun to be able to share that physically again. So I'll just quickly show you a trailer of how it happened when we premiered isiZulu. And as far as how we go about doing this, our objective in the next 3 years is to align ourselves with the UNESCO's campaign for the indigenous languages, the decade of indigenous languages, to publish another 15 comics, picture books for kids, more short story comics, theater adaptations, which will also be documented and put into digital. In 10 years, we keep growing, hopefully, within the community of the Indigenous Languages campaign, 100 picture books published, a commercially viable animated feature film, theater adaptations, again, which are being translated into digital. And what's next? We're thinking we need to be going beyond just putting things on YouTube's or on websites. And we've recently learned about, I've recently learned about NFT. And for those who are not in the know yet, here's a quick video on what it's about.
So I'm going to describe what an NFT is in the most basic terms I can. NFT stands for non-fungible token. Fungible means something is able to be exchanged or substituted and will hold the same value. It's interchangeable, like the dollar, gold, casino chips, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or frequent flyer loyalty points. If I lend you $10 cash and you return to me 2 $5 banknotes, I'm fine with that because even though they are different, they hold the same total value. They're fungible. So non-fungible obviously means it's an asset that can't be substituted. It has unique attributes that make it different from something else in the same asset class, like a painting, a theatre ticket, a house, a video game skin, a trademark, or a CryptoKitty, which was the first real use case to take off on the Ethereum blockchain in 2017. Some of these assets are physical and tangible, and others are digital and intangible. So NFTs are non-fungible tokens. Token refers to a digital certificate stored on a secure distributed database called a blockchain. So NFTs are digital assets, publicly verifiable intellectual property authenticated on a blockchain. A popular place to currently browse a variety of NFTs is on OpenSea.io. It's an exciting space. I believe the NFT space will continue to grow in the coming years, with some popular use cases being digital art, virtual land, gaming, collectibles, finance, and much more. I thought this was worth explaining because I think we'll be talking a lot more about this in the coming years.
So that's it. At Siafunda, we are constantly trying to figure ways in which we can move the not only the stories, but also the language of the people, African people per se, cultures, and move it to different platforms. And if we're looking at this platform where there's a lot of data going on with blockchains and everything, how would our stories work within this platform? Siafunda Online, our website is siafundaonline.co.za, and I'm contactable at sawubona@siafundaonline.co.za. And I should leave it at that for now. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Sia. We will share links to all this great work on the Rising Voices Twitter account, and so you can see for yourself some of this great work. When we pulled together this Twitter campaign, we knew that there would be lots of different stories. The different hosts, they may come from different contexts. The language may have more or less speakers. There may be more support or less support from the government to promote the language. But I think something all of them had in common was the passion and kind of commitment for their language. And some of our other work, especially in Latin America, when we were able to convene in-person meetings before COVID, a lot of the participants who came would often remark, like they had no idea that there were so many people working in the similar field, that they felt very isolated. They felt like they're the only ones interested in this work. And so that's part of what we're trying to do with Rising Voices, is to amplify this great work. So that also other people can be inspired by them. So I think that was really a great result of this campaign, is you could learn directly from the activists themselves what have been the challenges, what have been the successes. But I think it's more about this peer learning from one another. And I think this is what we're doing today. So, my next question for the four panelists is about challenges. I think, I'd love to maybe starting with Blossom. What have been like the biggest challenges you faced in getting involved with this work? Sustaining it. Maybe not only financially, but also human resources of finding the balance between this as a hobby, this as work, all your other commitments, but also bringing in new people as well. So overall, what have been some of the challenges you faced while working in this? And on the other hand, what have been some of the strategies you employed to maybe overcome those challenges? So if you have about 5 minutes, if you'd like to take that question, Blossom.
All right, thank you once more, Eddie. Incidentally, I would hear a lot of people name check their most popular challenge to be finance, but in our own case, we actually don't have that challenge. We're very thankful to the Wikimedia Foundation. So I would want to then say that probably the most pressing need or challenge that we've discovered over time is trying to retain editors. So we have a lot of new people join us at different times for different projects. And then over time, we would probably see a lot of those people not come back. So we have then tried to work out strategies to have a lot of retention, because when we are able to retain people that had come to join us for projects, that had come to join us to achieve specific things within our user group, it makes it easy to continue building on that momentum as opposed to going all the way back to keep retraining and training brand new set of people that had come. But there is something that we have just launched, which we have begun to call for applications. And I think it's something that would really help us, especially to build a community of people that are very competent and equally very excited. So we call that Adopt a Mentee campaign. So we have a lot of people email us, oh, they want to join the Wikipedia user group, this, that. And then we have some people that have joined us over some time and are very, very competent with specific Wikimedia projects, wiki quotes, Wikipedia, as many as they are. So we are then trying to give the existing editors an opportunity to adopt some of these new people and sort of handhold them through the process. So in doing that, what we would end up doing is to sort of link 2, 3, or even one person to an existing editor to then step down that walk of trying to bring everyone into the room and train them all over again. So they do this for us outside of the normal in-person gatherings that we've been having, of course, with social distancing and all that. So we want to believe that this would really help us to bridge that gap between trying to find the balance between retained existing editors and brand new people that are coming on board. Then another thing I would want to assume is a challenge, because personally it's a challenge for me, and I also would believe that other individuals within our user group, that's the Ibo Wikimedians user group, might also face this challenge, is trying to just find that balance between their daily livelihoods, their day jobs, and then also trying to stay committed to the community. So this is a big challenge in the sense that we can't really say weekends will be enough for us to do this work. It's something that is continuous. It's something that it's supposed to be a lifestyle, like every second, every minute, as much as you get excited, you just contribute to that space, to that community. So trying to find that balance between getting people who are, of course, volunteering their time, their energy, and of course, sometimes even their resources, to be able to also prioritize this work they are volunteering on, in addition to what they do as their day jobs or whatever thing that they do with their time. So those are the two sort of challenges that we are having. And this now is very specific to my user group because I live in Abuja, Nigeria, and the other curators over time also live in Abuja, Nigeria, which is in the northern part of Nigeria, and it's not a predominantly Igbo language speaking area. So the Igbo language speaking area we have is in the southeastern part of Nigeria, which are about 5 states. So that's a bit of a challenge. I would want to assume that if probably we're down there in the southeast, it would be easy for us to even have gotten a lot more editors over time, and also try to activate the community a lot faster than we are able to do, because we are in the Nigeria's capital, which is Abuja. But we've tried to bridge that by forming hubs in those states and also getting individuals to lead those hubs, to lead those communities, and of course then support them with resources and with even presence, our presence once in a while, as the case may be. Bottom line, I would say, for any challenge that we've encountered, we've also been able to think outside of the box to see how we can provide solutions to this. And it has been incredibly working. It's been incredibly positive in terms of trying to just close those gaps and then continue to do the work. Thank you.
Thanks, Blossom. Same question, Mama, are you?
Hi, yes, thank you so much. So For us, it has also been related to technical expertise. So we've been struggling to find technical expertise in areas not related to, let's say, the language. And so some of the projects that we've taken on, for example, we've had to learn and do by ourselves, or find people who can do that and pay them to do that. And so I would have to say that funding has been a challenge for us. So for example, when we started, I was able to, for example, work with my sister, who happens to be an illustrator, to write and illustrate a storybook for children. And then we were found by a publisher who lives in the UK, who was willing to publish bilingually for us. But we've only been able to publish an e-version of the book. And it's been a struggle to be able to distribute those ebooks to the audience that I believe needs them the most. So for example, in Ghana, so we've struggled with marketing or distributing the books because I think similar to SIA, there are very few people who can actually afford the physical books. And so we are trying to crowdfund and publish hard copies of the books, do pre-ordered published books, and then actually distribute those to children in schools that need them. We've also struggled with something similar to what Blossom mentioned, paying people to, I feel as though paying the volunteers we have helps to retain them. Because then they have to find that balance between their own work and then doing the work that we're doing. And for some of them, they feel as though that the expertise that they're contributing is something that should be paid for. And so there has been challenges in that area. And I also think another challenge has been scaling up. So we've managed to produce certain resources, but then it's been hard for us to produce them in larger quantities so that others would get access to them. I'm speaking, for example, of the books and then the flashcards, but we have made all of those available on the internet. So I think that people who have access to most of these resources are heritage language speakers of the language who are in the diaspora and are easily able to access, let's say, the internet and so on and so forth. But for speakers of the language or teachers and students who are learning the language in Accra, it's mostly been WhatsApp or Facebook or YouTube videos, and that has been left to chance as to whether or not they can access it or not.
Thanks, Mama. Yeah, a lot of great points there in terms of finding resources within the communities that maybe have skills and diverse skills that complement other individuals' skills. So I think that's a really important part of amplifying this work so that more people get interested. Because I think as Blossom mentioned, just retaining new editors helps spread the effort among more people. Because I think if you look at some of the larger Wikipedia languages, they have thousands and thousands of editors, but some of the low resource languages, more of the burden goes on less people. So I think that's really important to spread the word. And I think that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this session, is to really highlight this work and maybe attract the interest of others. Sadiq, can you talk about some of the challenges you're seeing in your work, and what are you doing to maybe overcome those?
Yeah, thank you, Eddie. So some of the challenges we faced as a community is currently we don't have a keyboard for like iOS users for Dagbani, which is a big challenge. I know a lot of people in my community uses mobile phone. Like about 70% of our volunteers cannot afford or do not have laptops or computers, so they basically edit from their smartphones. And if they have iPhones, which means they cannot edit at all. There's no keyboard that supports Dagbani for now, but we do have one for Android. But most of them, some of them are able to find their way around it, especially those who are using Android. They are able to download the keyboard that are available for them. So that is it for platform. We really have challenge with platform support. And then the second one has to do with volunteer retention, of course, which is a big challenge generally for Wikimedia communities across the African continent. We sometimes have issues like most of our community members are students actually. So when they are writing exams or when they are busy with their academics, it's a little bit challenging for them to participate. We have other people who can easily be part of the committee, but are not available, maybe due to work or other engagement. So retention, sometimes we have new people coming in and then the next moment they are no more. It means we need to recruit another set of people and train them again. So that kind of, difficulty is rather like affecting our progress. So if we can have, for example, a structure where we can build communities around schools, that is one of the ways that we have adapted. We want to build communities in different schools in the northern part of the country where most of the speakers are Dagombes. And we have been able to do that with the students at the University of Education Dagbani department, who are mostly part of our activities, either offline and online. And due to the COVID, as everyone, we've also moved online and we do a lot of activities now online. And challenges with internet has been very, it's really difficult for us to be able to compensate volunteers with internet data. Sometimes even if they have data, the connectivity is very terrible in our part of the country, northern region. Most of the networks doesn't really work very well, like they are not really strong for people to contribute to Wikimedia projects. So that has been another challenge. And then the final one has to do with, as a new community, we were recently recognized by the Wikimedia Foundation as an affiliate user group, and our activities cuts across 16 Moli Dagbani languages. So even though they are mutually intelligible, how do we, create, what are some of the things what do we do to make this family of languages more connected? They are all scattered across the northern region. We have the newly formed community, Dagbani community, which is part of the 16 Moli Dagbani languages. They are far away, so getting them together has always been a challenge. And also, when we organize events in the northern region, for example, we do not have a lot of people who are supposed to know the language very well. We don't really have a lot of support from them. Either they are busy or maybe haven't found time to support us. So we currently need language experts. As a new community, we need people who have the expertise. With one of the projects we did, like I mentioned, Bachinima, we were able to get two experts who were with us throughout the project. So if we have such members, like people who know the language, have studied the language at the higher level and are available to support us, I think it will really help our work in terms of contribution and how people can be involved. Aside Wikimedia project, we want to work outside Wikimedia. We want to, create translation tools and application that will support the Dagbani language. I'm currently in talks with the natural language processing team in Ghana, who are willing to create a text recognition platform for Dagbani language, which is good. And most of the times I put content on Facebook and people ask me why their language is not translated. And when they post content in Dagbani on Facebook, it's rather translated in another language. So it means the visibility of the language is not that much. So there's more to be done. People want to see Google content being translated into Dagbani, which sometimes can be challenging. But all this boils down to the visibility and how we can create avenues or platforms that would help us grow on the internet. So those has been the challenge. Retention of volunteers, support from experts are some of the challenges I can mention for now.
Great, thanks, Sadiq. I think Blossom had a quick comment to talk about some of the challenges you faced. Blossom?
All right, thank you so much. As Dagbani, Sadiq was talking about the availability of the keyboard, I quickly checked on SwiftKey and I kind of realized it's actually available for both iOS and Android. So that, I believe, might benefit your user group. So what I've done is to share the download link on the chat. So you might probably want to check that out, okay? Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Blossom. I think that's a really great example of how these kind of networks work, sharing, maybe common challenges, and maybe another person has, a suggestion or recommendation. I think that's been something we've been trying to kind of facilitate. As I mentioned, this Twitter group, we've had about 35, 40 different hosts, and we have a messaging group where we share links, we share different opportunities, and I think that's something we always love to see, kind of this peer exchange. So thanks, Blossom, for that suggestion. Sia, the same question about the challenges. Could you talk about that?
Sure, thank you, Eddie. Before I go into that, I was also listening to Mama's talk on challenges. I was wondering if you think we could, on a distribution side of things, distribute your book. I don't know if it's books or book digitally on our platform. I mean, there are a lot of I suppose there are a lot of Igbo speaking people in South Africa, I would suppose, and see how that would work. You would let me know perhaps when you get a moment. But to get into the Siafunda Online's challenges, it's pretty much what we are all going through, specifically from a publishing point of view. It's the financial aspect is a big deal. And one of the reasons is, yes, you want to get people involved to help with production and distribution and all sorts, but also just printing the books. Printing children's books or color books is very expensive because of their color. But what we've realized in Siafunda is that guardians, parents, teachers, they want children to read and make it habitual. What we all know is that we need children to read in their mother tongue. We need them to consume any content in their indigenous language. The fear is that what is holding the whole thing back, I see, is that the parents of the children, especially, buy a lot of content, books, games, and everything in English, because they feel, one, it helps the kids in school because they're already learning in English, but also it is so much more difficult for the kids to learn in their mother tongue because they were never brought up with it in the first place. And it also gives the guardians, the parents, a little bit more homework to be involved in this. How we're trying to solve this with Siafunda is that we believe that our content, our stories can benefit the learners, the children, in that it helps them learn language, and it also hopefully inspires them to be more curious and have pride in themselves. The features of our products are from books to performance art to short films, and in the near future, hopefully, we are making more feature films. And how far we can take those digital platforms, only the future will tell how the digital landscape will happen. And hopefully through this experience, the learners could start learning their home languages much easier. They could have they could look forward to consuming content which is relevant to them, with people who look like them and who speak their same language. Now, internally, we are pretty strong in creating content that produces in producing content in indigenous languages. We also have a good presence so far in hard copies when it comes to indigenous languages, and we are starting to grow the indigenous languages in digital publishing. What we are struggling with internally is that we still have a lack of expertise in some key roles from a publishing and distribution point of view. A lot of the work has been done with personally what I've learned along the way, and sort of like street smart sort of publishing and distribution, getting to know the printers, getting to see how they print and how they cost, why they cost, the printing they do, getting to know the independent book dealers, understanding why it costs, why we should be paying, for instance, 30%, paying them 30% commission as opposed to 10 or maybe 45, and all those sort of things. So getting people in these key roles so that they focus on them and they are doing them consistently and they're innovating them, this is what we need within Siafunda. And obviously, and not to mention funding again. Now, the externally, the public nationally is aware of what we are doing. We are identified as representing indigenous languages and creating content. Our strengths are also that we are identified to provide quality content for children in South Africa to consume. Now, externally, we need more publishing networks. So we need to grow our reach as far as publishing goes. We need to grow our social media presence. We need to be producing more content more often. One thing that is sort of making me think more about the publishing landscape in South Africa as it stands is that we need to connect with the up and coming or aspiring writers, illustrators, or content producers who are creating content in their mother tongue, or content that is relevant to South Africans, and we need to be able to assist them into coming into the game, especially for us who are already in it. And with that being said, when we're able to get funding, my philosophy is that we pay the content creators who are creating such content more than content creators who are creating content in English. And then a few factors that can prevent us from achieving our goals. Three, mainly, it's just to summarize, it's funding, access to any type of funding, government, corporate, membership fees, events, sales. And this is one of the reasons why I'm very much interested in looking at what the blockchain spaces can provide as far as funding our mission is concerned. It's a very, very volatile market. Anything can happen. Could lose, we could win, but I feel like there's so much potential in that blockchain system that if we don't catch it now, it may be too late in 3 years to 5 years time. And to be able to just have that budget consistently when we know that our desired goals each year are being met, that would help us to achieve our goals. And obviously the third one being to be able to reach more booksellers, more broadcasters. Having this platform is one of the things that are helping us, and obviously to get into more private schools, as it is still very, very difficult to get into public schools or government-owned schools because they still have a sort of rigid system of running things. The teachers are also have been there for 30 years and they have their system of doing things, and they're very unlikely to be persuaded to do something different. And I will leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Sia. I think we've heard really a wide range of challenges, from technical, talking about the keyboards, internet access is also a big issue. As I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of the parts of the world, parts of the continent that may have lower internet connectivity also are places where some of these low resource languages are spoken. And so it's another hurdle to overcome. The sustainability, not only financial, but also, volunteers and contributors. As part of this International Decade of Indigenous Languages, Rising Voices producing a toolkit in partnership with UNESCO, and for that we shared a really global survey for speakers of indigenous languages and minority and low resource languages to ask about challenges. You know, some of these came up, but also some of the questions or some of the challenges include, you know, social and political. You know, maybe they live in a country where these languages are not recognized, and so they're already behind on that. Or maybe they're even in a country where, you know, there's a denial that there's indigenous languages. And so I think all of these really add up. But the fortunate thing, as we saw today, you know, we have, you know, individuals in our networks who want to share their learning, they want to share their experiences and can have maybe suggestions on how to overcome that. So I think that's a really excellent example of how these peer networks can really work. So I have one more quick question, and then we'll get to questions from the audience. Maybe about 3 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, really quick. You know, in your work, how would you personally define success, or how do you know that you're having an impact with your work? I know that's very subjective, but I'd love to hear how you're approaching sort of that question. We'll start with Blossom.
Wow. Like you say, that's actually very projective. But I think success is usually better measured in two dimensions or frameworks. The first will probably be you're looking at the numbers in terms of what is the output, what have you been able to achieve in a specific period of time. So that is one way you can measure success. If it's increasingly going up, you know, on the scale, that's, you could say you're being successful. Then another way is also to measure it from a very, in non-number specific terms, in terms of what you would assume to be what it has yielded to people over time, which of course you cannot necessarily put a number to. But if you look back at where you're coming and where you are currently, and understand that the aggregation of the different or various individual works, no matter how little, has sort of accumulated over time to bring your community or even you as an individual to where you are currently, then that is also success. So trying to compare the energy to take one person to do something 100% and getting 10 people to do that same thing, of course, the result will be much, much more explosive compared with one person. So that over time is how we've been able to measure success. But personally, for me, success, especially starting as the leader of the community, for me, success right now is the fact that I don't need to be in the room and work is going on at an incredible pace, even a lot more that I could have imagined. So that's success for me. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Blossom. You know, I think seeing the fruits of that, seeing new generations of contributors is really, really satisfying. I know I've seen that in other cases. So congrats for that. Mama, the same question about how you measuring impact or defining success in your work?
Right, thank you so much. So for me, one of the questions that I ask, I would not call it measuring because I don't think we are the stage where we can measure numerically yet. And so I would go with defining it. And I would say one of the questions I ask myself is Gã on the internet now? You know, is it visible compared to, let's say, 5 or 6 years ago? When I started doing this kind of work, and I would say yes, because previously, if you, for example, typed in Gã on Google, if you Googled Gã, you find hits relating the letters GA to Atlanta, Georgia. And then there was also the now you can also, I also know of the
I think Mama might have some technical issues, but we'll come back to her. Sadiq, sorry.
yeah. And then now I can also talk about the proliferation of Gã content from other content creators in Ghana. I also can report that we managed to collaborate with University Language Department for Gã, because we are funding a scholarship for teachers of Gã, which is a low resource language. And we launched a GoFundMe in addition to reaching out to other donors to donate to the scholarship fund, which is about 20,000 Canadian dollars. And we've managed to raise almost half of that. And so the fact that the university has embraced what we're doing, and we've instituted this as a scholarship that will train about 6 teachers over the course of the next 4 years. 4 years is something that I would define as an impact, right? One other thing that I would define as an impact, of course, is testimonials from students and teachers who are getting access to our resources, and then also being contacted by the descendants of enslaved Africans who are retracing their ancestral language roots and ties to Ghana and telling me, hey, I've been looking, my great-grandmother spoke this language, or my great-great-grandmother has a name, and I've retraced my blood ties to Ghana using this DNA test. And I believe that I'm actually from the Gã tribe, or from Ghana, and I want to learn any Ghanaian language. And I found your work online. And so that to me is success. The fact that our work is reaching the people who it is meant to reach.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Mama. Sadiq?
Okay. To me, with regards to my community, I would define success this way. So we started actively in just last year, 2020. And then I know it sometimes can be very difficult to get a language out of the incubator. Incubator is a test wiki, like smaller language test wikis. Before you get a full language Wikipedia, you have to be in the incubator for some time. It doesn't have a specific duration, but usually it takes a lot of effort to be able to come out of the incubator, because you need to meet all the requirements for having a full language Wikipedia. And for us, we started last year translating the most commonly used messages on MediaWiki. When you open Wikipedia, you see all the interface in English, everything that you can see on the English Wikipedia. You need to translate them into your local language to be able to come out of the incubator. And we needed to do 100% of that. Within this short period, like last year to date, as at July 1, we were able to come out of the incubator. To me, it was something that I will define as success, because I know other communities takes much longer to get out of the incubator. So for people like us who are very new to the community and having a language Wikipedia now is a success to me. And also, as I mentioned in my earlier submission, we were selected as one of the focus language groups for the abstract Wikipedia project by Wikimedia Germany. We are part of the 6 language groups. So as at that time, we're even in the incubator. So I think it's an achievement for us as a community. Being in the incubator and getting recognized by such an organization like Wikimedia Germany and a group that works with the abstract Wikipedia team is really something that I can say or consider success. And also I have been approached by a couple of organizations like GIZ who found our work on the internet and wants to support us. So we are currently in talks with them, and we hope that something good will come out of that. I've also had endorsement from some select chiefs, like most of the paramount chiefs around the north here. We've been able to visit the Yana's Palace, which is like the paramount chief of the northern, the Dagbani kingdom, the people of the Dagombes. We visited there's a female version of him as well, who we call I forgot the name, but she's more like the Yana of the kingdom, like when it comes to women. So she also endorsed us. And then we had other institutions like City TV, who invited me to speak more about our program as part of their Heritage Month celebration. So I feel like it's a success for us because having this recognition and getting people to, approach you and talk about how they can support you, it means you are doing something that maybe is good for the society or community. So that is what I would define as success. But personally, I would also say I am one of the people who believe in like partnership and like capacity building. I don't want to be doing things all by myself. So what I've been able to achieve recently was I've been able to onboard a lot of other community members, at least 8 members who started as newbies from 2019. They created their account freshly, and now some of them are even administrators for the Dagbani Wikipedia and have over thousands of edits already. So, and they are already impacting their communities in different ways. So I feel it's also success. So me or without me, or without my other colleague who is currently based in Germany, Mohammed Sadat, that means the community can thrive. That is all that we wanted to see. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Sadiq. We have about 9 minutes left. I know we have a couple of questions in the queue, but I want to give Sia a quick, if you could maybe summarize how you define success, and we'll get to the question.
Thanks, Eddie. Success for me personally is based on the small things I can just do on a day-to-day basis and how I can be consistent with that. And for me, that's good enough on a personal level. However, with regards to what we are doing and the impact it can make, there are obviously KPIs would look at, and to be able to publish a certain amount of books in a year consistently, a certain amount of films in a year, and document digitally in terms of the films and stuff, exploring other global frontiers as far as publishing is concerned. That for me would tell me if we are doing impactful work as a team or not. I think I'll leave it at that.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone. We have 2 questions in the queue. I think this one's first is for Sia. You're talking about NFTs. It's from Robert Kwangu. A great session. Do you think that NFTs, blockchain, could be a potential barrier between different language groups or countries based on digital literacy, internet penetration? Maybe Sia, if you want to take this one.
Yes. Look, I mean, let's be honest. The way the internet is constructed at the moment, it suits the Western world. It is constructed by the Western world for the majority of it. So yes, it will disadvantage those who do not have access to good internet, etc. And I mean, I only found out about NFTs a couple of weeks ago. So I'm still not confident about talking about the details of where it's going, what it's about. I thought I'd share the clip so that we can at least start talking about these things and seeing a way forward. So yes, to answer your question, at the moment it's not advantageous to those who don't have good internet or even access to that type of information. I hope I answered that question okay.
Great. And I think there's one more about from the portal, talking about this person's language is Kiswahili. And he said there's been an explosion of community narrative that has been sidetracked in the struggle for literacy and information. Do some languages have bigger stakes than others? I think maybe the question is about, is there more at stake for some languages more than others? Not quite sure what the question is, but I think it's around that. Like, do you think there are some languages that may have more of urgency or more of a need for this type of work? Or anyone wants to maybe take that question?
Well, I can say from a South African point of view, yes. Some languages do get marginalized, even within the the 10 indigenous languages in South Africa, you'll get Afrikaans getting a lot of the attention, especially in schools. And then you'll get maybe isiZulu, and then you'll get isiXhosa and others. But the marginalization of languages is very much there, and it's not being hidden, as far as I can tell, from a South African point of view.
Anyone else want to maybe take that? How in your countries, whether there's more of urgency for some languages, maybe less attention, more resources for others. How is that working in your countries? And then maybe how are you able to cross those lines and help other language communities in your country?
I can comment briefly on how, well, the question was in terms of crossing other lines to help other language users in the country. I know how we are doing that is actually by sharing the work that we have done with one particular language. So for example, with Gã, and we're finding that other people who are having the same challenges are reaching out to us. I've actually even had people reaching out to us from beyond national lines. And so what we've done is show them what we've done and the platforms that we've used so that, and help them also engage in the same kinds of processes to make sure that their languages are visible. For some languages, though, I am finding out that they do not necessarily, they do not have some of the resources that we have that we use to build on our resource creation. So Gã was fortunate to be one of the state-sponsored languages during the during early independence in Ghana. And we have, I would say, some resources available in terms of dictionaries that have been written for Gã, and Bible literature or Bible-related literature that has been written for Gã. And so it has been somewhat easier for us to build on these resources. But for lower resource languages or languages that have little to zero visibility in the internet space, it's been challenging, because then you have to find speakers of the language to put the languages to writing so that they can have visibility on the internet. But the way around that for us has been to encourage them to use oral means. And so document the oral literature, the oral side of the language, and then put it out there on the internet.
Great. I think we've come to the end of our panel, so we might just leave it at that. But I really want to thank everyone for watching and for joining us. And I also want to especially thank our panelists, Blossom, Sadiq, Mama, and Sia. It's always a pleasure to learn more about your work. And thanks for sharing. And thanks for everything that you're doing for your language, your culture. And especially want to thank CIPESA for offering the space to amplify these stories. I think we all agree it's been really inspiring as well. And we will share more links. We'll share links to the work, Twitter handles on our Rising Voices Twitter account. So you can click on that and learn more about everyone for joining us. And thanks to our panelists again for this great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eddie. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sadiq, Eddie, Sia, Mama, and of course, everybody at CIPESA. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.